So we got a brand new horror film all the way from Indonesia on Netflix called Susuk.
Susuk.
It has like a full name, and we looked up the translation of this, and it was something like implant of the like beauty curse.
Yeah.
Implant the beauty or implant the beauty curse, something like that.
I thought that was what you said when you
Yeah.
looked it up.
So that's the title. I think Suzuki means implant, is what I think I remember, because when I was typing it up, I put Susuk first and it said implant, and I was like, oh. So this is about a woman who suffers an injury, and when she goes to the hospital, her sister is called in, and the doctor tells her that she needs to see something, and on her x-ray, we see that something has been implanted in her face. And so she returns home to a village that they had left a long time ago to try to get these removed, because they can't be removed by modern science.
Mm-hmm.
They are cursed objects. So of course this is one we went into completely blind, never even heard about it. Just saw it was on Netflix. It was new. I've seen quite a few Indonesian horror films at this point, and I like them for the most part.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. And yeah, it's good. It is fairly been there, done that, generic in as far as its concept of the execution, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is all familiar. As far as like the stuff like implanted in her face and the removal of all that, that's a new spin, so to speak, right? And this is a practice that was done, so this is culturally relevant, which I thought was cool, and it's something I did not know about.
I didn't either. That was like a really cool thing to find out. Very interesting.
So for that to be implemented in here, having to do with the culture and doing it in this spin is cool, and it's a kind of a new twist on a demon possession kind of thing. One trope I've definitely seen at this point, and was pointing out to you, is I feel like almost every Indonesian horror film, if not a lot of Asian horror in general, but especially Indonesian, there's this trope of the big city people having to return to the village that they came from, whether it's they came from it or their lineage came from it.
Right.
And they have to leave the comforts of the big city and what they know and go to these little villages that are really like rampant with, superstition and whatnot. And they have to put aside what they think they know of the world and to try to help someone they love or whatever. This is something that is done in almost every single one of these movies at this point.
I mean, to be fair, I do think that like it's just a trope in general for like city people to leave, society and go into something that's like an isolated wilderness.
It's like almost every Indonesian film I watch.
Yeah.
Right, as opposed to American horror, there's a subgenre of that,
right,
like slasher movies are a lot of the times that, but there's so many different types, and I feel like Indonesian horror that I've watched, I haven't watched it all by any means, but it's almost all possession, and all the possession stuff is the big city people leaving and going into the small village.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't know enough about like Indonesian life and culture and everything, but it obviously, those themes hit home with that audience. And I mean, I like it. I definitely don't dislike watching that, because it's like, one of the things that we always love about watching movies from other countries is just like getting to see like other ways of life and like other belief systems and all of that. So I think it's interesting, but I mean, with this film, like you were saying, it is fairly generic, but I did think that there was some pretty cool imagery, which I was a fan of, and some pretty cool atmosphere at times too. I think that there was like decent like tension building and everything. So I was into all of that, and yeah, just the practice itself was like creepy, and to like learn that people still do it, and I don't really know much about like whether or not like it's commonplace or if it's like banned and is like definitely thought of as like black magic or what, because from what I was getting from the film is that it could be both. Like a normal practice that like, yeah, you just do it and then it could go bad kind of a thing. So, but it was an enjoyable film. I had a good time with it.
Yeah, I think the film is very successful in its scare setups. I was actually pretty pleased with the horror in the movie. I thought all of that was done well. I mean, a lot of it is, been there, done that, but it's done well. Yeah. So it's not a negative. And I think that if you are a fan of this style of film, like Asian possession movies, especially like Indonesian ones, I think you'll like it. I definitely think it's a recommendation for people who are into that kind of stuff. And one thing I thought that was done pretty well here is the building of our little town and the people within, making it feel like a lived-in real place and their connection to it. They do try to set up something with lineage in here, and they kind of save it. They hint at it throughout a little tiny bit, and then there's a revelation, and then there's the big revelation, and then there's supposed to be some kind of like emotional gut punch connection kind of thing, and I think it works okay. I just wish we would have been able to spend a little more time developing that, so that when it does get revealed and then ends up climaxing, that the emotional gut punch that it was going for would be more of an impact. So that's one place I find it to be a little underdeveloped, and probably just the relationships in general maybe aren't developed enough between the sisters, between the sister's friend and the sister, right? So like the sister that isn't hurt brings the sister who is hurt's friend along, and he has like a romantic interest in the one who's possessed, and that's why he comes along. And they kind of know each other, and she blames him to a degree, and there's a little bit of strife, a little bit, of tension going on between them. And then there's the past that they had with the village and all of that. And I just feel like a few more minutes here, a few minutes there. Like, it's just maybe like an extra 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just to flesh a little more relationships out between people, so that when you get to the climax and you're really getting those moments that they were going for, I think they would have just had more weight and emotional impact to them when these things happen. I was still invested though. I still was like, oh, bummer, on some of these things. So it wasn't like I was like, I'm sitting here dogging the film out being like, they didn't achieve it at all. I just think that's what separates it from being great, is that, and maybe a few more innovative ideas and scares. But I do think the horror in this is executed very well. Yeah. So, I don't think it's lacking there. It's not 100% there, but it's good. Yeah. And I'm glad we watched it, and I'm I have a feeling we're probably going to be some of the only people who watch it and review it this year. Probably. Which is a shame, because it's definitely worth your time if you're into this kind of stuff. So for sure, this will be one that flies totally under the radar. You're not going to hear anybody talking about it. I didn't hear anybody talking about it. I've not heard one word about it. I only found out about this because I went on to Just Watch, and I push on new, and I have my presets, which is horror, and the like platforms that I use, and then I just scroll down. I do it like once a week. I go to upcominghorrormovies.com, I go to Just Watch, I go to a few places, and I just look, and I just kind of scan up for a minute. And then if just that's how I probably find 15% of what we watch. 20% of what we watch is just I'd never even heard about it before until we press play 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
Which is fun. Yeah. Because sometimes it's shit. You know, sometimes it's things we can't get through because they're super amateur, which we watched a movie called Earworm, which Kaylee wasn't into. I'll probably finish it just so that I can review it. But and then you get other things that like Moon Garden.
Sure.
That just kind of come out of nowhere and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, like, whoa.
That was fantastic. Right? So you got to take chances, or you got to follow channels like this who take the chances for you.
That's true.
And save you the time if you trust our opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, check it out. It's on Netflix. I'm sure you got that. Most people do, except for Ricky. Ricky's the only non-Netflixy guy. Now there's a few more people, but Ricky's always the one I like to call out.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hello, Jesus. We love you.
We do.
All right, guys.
Bye.